Good evening everybody and welcome to the Facebook Safe Food live chat. I'm Aileen McGloin, I'm the Communications Manager for Digital Health in Safe Food. I'm with Louise Reynolds from the Irish Nutrition and Dietetic Institute, and this evening we're going to talk about portion sizes. If you've been following the Safe Food Facebook page for some time, you'll realise we've been doing a campaign to encourage parents and support them to make small dietary and lifestyle changes that will help make their children healthier. We've talked about getting more sleep, being more physically active, having less screen time, and reducing portion size. So for this phase of our campaign, we're talking about portion size because it's something that can be really confusing. There's research available now that shows that when children are offered more food, they'll eat more food, much in the way adults do. So very young children up to the age of 4 have very good appetite control, but after that, we all really struggle with that. And added to that, portion sizes have been growing over the last 20 or 30 years. So I know people out there will have their own questions. We have some questions that have already been submitted through our Facebook page, so thanks everybody who has done that already. And just to kick off, I think what we'll do, Louise, is just go through what we have on the table and explain some of the, I suppose, the appropriate portion sizes and how people can tell that.
Okay, great. Well, I think the most obvious thing here is the plate. I think it's a really good idea for parents to get into the habit of using a dinner plate for their own dinner, but a smaller plate for their child. And in that way, you really are going to be giving smaller portions because actually the physical size of the plate. And that might sound very simple, but I think a lot of people, as you said, after the age of 4, they begin to see their children as more eating family meals, and they tend to use the bigger plates. Whereas before the age of 4, you might have colourful plates, you might have a plate with their favourite cartoon character. So I think keep those smaller plates going for that bit longer.
And the other thing is that plate size has grown along with portion size. So
that's right, yeah, that's right. So we're really using a side plate here. Everyone's plate size is going to vary in their own kitchen, but if you take a side plate, that really is an appropriate sized plate to give your child. Certainly your 5, 6-year-old is going to need half the dinner portion here. We have it here with a lovely stew, and you can see here even the potato, 1 potato for the child's portion. This would be an average for a 5-year-old child. So 1 potato for the child, 2 there for the adult. And again, we have half the amount of stew, a range of vegetables again, which is a great way to encourage young children. Really don't feel that if they don't eat it the first time, that they won't eat it, because we know that it may take up to 8 or 10 or even more exposures for a child to accept it. So just put a small amount of the various vegetables there, and hopefully they'll get more adventurous as time goes on. The same here, we have the curry, and again half the portion size there. So you can see it's quite easy. You've got half the plate with the curry sauce there, including the vegetables and the rice. And sometimes rice is one of those, or the carbohydrate foods, we tend to see parents offering large portions. So I think this is quite a good visual there. And of course you have weighed all of these in advance.
Yeah, so this is 6 dessert spoons, and that's 3 dessert spoons of the rice.
And again here with the chicken dinner, you can see it's a smaller piece of chicken there, so it's probably about half of the chicken breast, and the chicken breast there for the adult. And you can see again the potatoes. These are small baby potatoes, so we have 4 there for the adult and 2 for the child. And again, the smaller amount of vegetables. But again, if they want some more after that, it's always no problem. They can have a second serving. But sometimes even a very large portion can be off-putting as well. And I think the old idea of having to stay at the dinner table and eating everything until your plate is completely clear, that's not something that we'd recommend anymore. And as you mentioned earlier, the children have their own appetite center, but if you are overriding that by constantly saying, eat up, eat up, eat up, trust them to say, well, actually, I'm full, I've had enough of my dinner.
And one question, we're talking about 5-year-olds as a half portion. So one question people often ask is, okay, my child is 9 or 10. So you're going up and down from the half portion,
the half portion,
depending on the age.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be, when you get to a 12 or 13-year-old, you will be serving their dinner on the same size plate as the parents. But just, to gradually make that change. I think that people are quite used to having plastic bowls and plates and cups for the very young children, and then they seem to just maybe think, oh, well, just go to family plates now. But just gradually increase the size, and it's an easy way just to keep a check on the amounts that you're serving. But again, if your child is hungry and they ask for some more stew, by all means, another spoonful, maybe another potato. If they're still hungry after that, then move on to offering something else, maybe some fruit.
Okay.
You know, so I think that's a really good visual here for people to kind of have a close look at and say, oh yeah, maybe I'm giving a little bit too much, or maybe I haven't really thought about portion size in that way before.
Okay. And we've got some carbs weighed out here now, because this is an area where people can go easily wrong with portion size.
Yeah, and I think as well, probably if you're cooking for a large family or a few people in the evening, maybe we don't measure out pasta and rice, and it's a good habit to get back into. And I know these are the little kind of cups that you'd find at the water cooler in an office or whatever, but you'll have a small teacup that you can use at home, or a small plastic cup that maybe one of your children would drink from. So this is a portion here of pasta, which is obviously uncooked. So when that's cooked, it's going to expand when it absorbs the water. So it's going to look like more. And again, the rice, I think people are often surprised.
Yeah.
And they say, oh my God, that's, you know, a really small amount of rice.
But that would double.
But again, it will double when,
Yeah.
when it's cooked. So again, that would be, you know, equivalent to here. This would be the 6 spoonfuls and 3 for a child. So
Yeah.
it is going to expand as it
Yeah.
cooks. And again, we have brown rice, which is kind of just to remind people
Yeah.
to try and include the
Get as
brown
much
rice.
fibre as you
Yeah,
can.
exactly.
Same with the brown bread.
Same with the brown bread. I think just as also to mention with rice, I think a good way to start using brown rice, if you mix white and brown together when you're cooking,
Yeah.
and start increasing it. And some of them have different cooking times, but you can get ones now that both take about 10 minutes. And I think that can work quite well. If you only have white rice at home, start by putting a little more brown in, and then over time you get used to the taste, and then you can kind of slowly decrease the amount of white rice in there. And the same, we have an average sandwich is 2 slices of bread there. Again, that's what, you know, an adult would have, but a 5-year-old child, half of that would be fine if they're having a sandwich at lunchtime.
Yeah.
To them, that is their sandwich. You know, it'll be on a smaller plate, and then if they want more, you can,
Of course they can.
have some more there. We just also compared it with the baguette, which is really
Yeah.
popular now. You
Yeah.
know, lots of people would, whether they're out buying lunch in a deli, or even buying the breads, the rolls to make at home. But just to be aware that that deli baguette there is equivalent to 4 slices of bread.
It's always a real shocker when you hear
Yeah.
that for the first time.
Yeah, but if you can imagine, a lot of it is based on weight, because really the bread is the source of carbohydrate. So if you can imagine, that demi baguette is heavier than the 2 slices of bread.
People would frequently go out and get a demi baguette for their lunch and
Yeah.
think I'm having a sandwich.
A sandwich,
But
exactly.
that's-
And if
yeah.
you are trying to maintain your weight, if you are somebody who, you know, is struggling with your weight, that might be a simple change
Yeah.
that you're not realising that you're making. And certainly for a young child, that would be far too large a portion. If you're you know, doing a sandwich for lunch boxes, you could certainly, that would be for 2 children.
Yeah.
The deli baguette, if you're making sandwiches in the morning.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay, for the young child.
And now we've got some fruit and veg. So the good news here is we can eat more of these ones.
Yeah, exactly. I think people are, you know, again, any fruit and vegetables that you or your child eat is a really good idea, because we know in Ireland we're not eating enough fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
So any improvement, whatever fruit and vegetables you like to cook or your child likes, is great. But I would say try different ones. You know, we can get a bit into the rut of doing our shopping and throwing the same things into the shopping trolley all the time. So just to vary it as much as you can. And also we have a whole range of colour here, which is great, because the wider the variety of colours that you go for, the better the range of nutrition and nutrients you're going to get from those. So we often talk about eating a rainbow,
Yeah.
which is a good way to kind of visually think, okay,
Especially for the small kids.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If they have, you know, some grapes and then maybe some green vegetables with their dinner, some orange, they're going to get a whole range there. In terms of portion size, this is an average portion here of broccoli, or an average portion of cauliflower there. When it comes to fruit, the smaller fruits, so 2 plums would be equivalent to a portion of fruit, or a medium banana, an apple or a peach there. And again, when it comes to berries or grapes, about 10 or 12 berries or grapes would be equivalent to 1 portion. So we don't really want people to be spending their day adding up what they've eaten, but just when you sit down, or if you're giving a portion to a child, I think it's good to keep that in mind. You know, they don't expect them to eat the whole punnet of grapes, or they shouldn't eat the whole punnet of grapes.
Yeah.
I know if they, you know, if they start, it can be quite tempting, but you know, to keep in mind, a portion is about 10 to 12 grapes.
Yeah.
And again, if you're putting that in a packed lunch for a child or whatever, just to keep those in mind, or 1 banana or 1 medium piece of fruit.
Okay. And the cheese, it's a matchbox size piece we have here. Again, this is one people think, oh, is that all?
Yeah, but I think when it's grated, yeah, it does.
looks okay.
Yeah. I think people will be surprised to think that's exactly the same amount that you've weighed out there. So, you know, grated is the perfect amount for a sandwich.
Yeah.
So again, you know, if you have the block of cheese and if you're cutting slice upon slice to put into a sandwich, you're probably putting in more like 2 portions in there. So just to keep in mind, that is a portion of cheese. And for, you know, for calcium, it's a really good source of calcium. So that would be a good choice.
And we've got some of the cereals here. The oats.
The oats.
Porridge.
Yeah, and again, if you or your children are eating porridge, that's great. Stick with it. Yeah, you don't need to look much further in terms of a really healthy, nutritious cereal. Again, that's going to expand up when it's made up. So just to keep in mind, again, maybe weighing it out is not a bad idea.
That's about 2/3 there of a water cooler cup.
Yeah. So, you know, just to, if you do have a cup at home that you want to kind of use for measuring out cereals, it's just a good idea to get into the habit
See
of
what
seeing
that looks like.
what that looks like.
You need to do it once.
Exactly. And again, in everybody's bowl, we even have 2 different size cereal bowls here, so it will look different, but just to get used to maybe just an idea of what a portion would look like.
These are easier, the wheat biscuits, it's 2.
Yeah.
So that's easy for everybody to remember. And this one is
Special
the
K,
amount of
any kind of
flake
flake cereal. So again, that's 30 grams in there, which might look small to people, but that is a serving. So you know, that would be plenty for a young child. And again, you know, adults may take more than that, but keep that in mind if you're keeping, you know, an idea of how much you're having during the day.
It's very easy to go wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. We had some questions in earlier, so I'm going to read some of those out for Louise. And then if anyone who is watching has questions, we'd love to hear those as well, based on anything we've shown you here. So we have a question here from Jill O'Malley. She says her little girl just started Montessori last week and she's a little bit unsure about what's appropriate for lunch. Her friends are saying she'll go hungry and she might need to include a sandwich, yogurt and fruit, maybe some raisins. All of those things are, of course, healthy options. But she says she's also getting home at 12:30. She's even saying herself that seems like a lot. She's kind of just sense checking it with you.
Yeah, well, I think Jill, she probably will get advice from the Montessori, an idea of what to send in. You know, there may be that they'll have a break time and she'll, you know, have to pack something in the lunchbox. I think if her daughter is coming home at 12:30, she doesn't need a sandwich before that. You know, because really if she's, you know, having her breakfast before she goes to Montessori at 8 or 8:30, a small snack in the morning, she doesn't need to have a sandwich in Montessori school and then a sandwich again at home. So I would think hold off the sandwich and have that as her lunch when she comes home, maybe with a glass of milk or a yogurt or a piece of fruit. In the morning time then, if it is the policy to send in something, that's the time to maybe put in a bunch of grapes and maybe a yogurt. But again, with that age group, she may need a hand with the teacher opening it. I know teachers are not mad on yogurts coming in, so again, maybe check that with the Montessori teacher. But something small, a healthy snack, might just be enough to tide her over. And again, a box of raisins, but I know that the dentists aren't mad about raisins just because they tend to stick around on her teeth
at meal times.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, but I hope she gets on great. I'm sure she'll enjoy her Montessori, and I think to keep her lunch as normal to lunchtime and something smaller in the morning.
Okay. Another question here from Anne Crombie. She says her girls are fussy eaters and they don't like trying new foods, and this won't be new to anybody probably watching.
Any parent out there
they'll eat some veg, broccoli, green beans, peas, but they don't like carrots, turnips and so on. So yeah, as you said, there's kind of a core amount of veg that will be eaten and then other things won't be eaten.
Yeah, well I think Anne's daughter is doing quite well if she's eating the green beans and the broccoli, because sometimes they can be a little bit more bitter tasting, so they might be the ones that children won't go for, whereas sweet corn and carrot are sweeter, so they tend to be more palatable or more popular. So I wouldn't really stress too much. I would continue to offer, you know, cook a range of vegetables for the whole family, continue to offer them, and you know, hopefully they will. Children learn by example, really. They become a little bit more adventurous as they get older. There's that term neophobic is often used for children, meaning that they're afraid of something new and they just like to stick to what they know they like. But as children get older, they will get a little bit more adventurous. But if she's eating a wide range of fruits and a few different vegetables, I think she doesn't have to worry too much.
Just keep on
trying. Yeah, absolutely. Don't say that, oh no, she will never eat carrots. At the moment she's not that fond of them, but keep cooking them, put a couple on her plate, just, you know, praise her if she even tries them, and hopefully that will just, you know, with time she'll become a little bit more adventurous.
Great. Okay. And I have another one here from Janet O'Sullivan Harkin. If you give a child what you estimate is an appropriate portion for the age, and then they finish it and ask for seconds, you know, like a healthy food, pasta, dinner,
Yeah.
so on, do you refuse or do you allow them more at that stage?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
No, I would give them some more, because again, we're just estimating what the child, you know,
Yeah.
needs at that age. But maybe they've had a really busy day, maybe they are having a growth spurt at that time. So I would certainly give a small amount more of the dinner. So again, using the same small plate, if they're hungry again for a healthy dinner, you can certainly put some more on there. If they clear that and they're still hungry, maybe then rather than going for thirds and fourths, because then you can get into a situation where a child is eating just very large portions.
Sure.
But then say, well, look, you've done really well, you've had 2 portions of dinner, that's brilliant. Now maybe have some chopped fruit, or would you like a yogurt, or move on to something else, just in case the child still is full. But generally,
Start small.
Go yeah. I think, and sometimes a very large plate of food can be a little bit off-putting for a child as well. You know, even for an adult, if you get huge portions, you think, oh, how am I ever going to get through that? So definitely start small, give seconds by all means, and particularly if you're making a change now. I mean, if you have always been using plates, and if in the back of your head you're thinking, do you know what, maybe I have been giving too much food, it might be quite a shock to go to a very small plate of food now. So just say, look, we're just going to use these smaller plates, but you can certainly have seconds, but just keep an eye on it, and then maybe go for something else for a dessert. And then to take a break as well, because it takes a little bit of time for your brain to register that you've eaten. You know, if you eat really, really quickly, you might not, the signals haven't gone back to your brain to say, hang on now, I'm full. So if you've eaten really fast and then you want another plate really quickly, you know, slow things down, just say, just take a break for a minute, have a glass of water or whatever, and then see if you're still hungry after that. But certainly, you know, yes, offer some more if they want an extra little bit of the dinner, that's absolutely fine.
Okay. Another question here from Sarah Mahmood. My little girl, 2, I think that means she is 2, refuses to eat fruit and veg. You know, she's described she won't have any of it, not smoothies, nothing.
And she's probably, has she tried all of
she's tried every
tactics?
Yes, absolutely. And so I think she just
and again,
very
Sarah, you're absolutely not alone with this particular issue. Certainly with a 2-year-old. You know, it's a normal developmental stage. A lot of children will go through this stage where refusing meals that they have previously eaten for you, no problem. And you know, parents are at their wits' end trying to encourage their children to eat fruit and vegetables. What I would say to her is, it is a normal stage. Very often at that age, children are exerting independence and they want to be, you know, looking after everything themselves. I just would continue to offer the fruit and vegetable. Chop up the fruit nice and small. You know, maybe a large piece of fruit would be too much, but maybe add a little bit of fruit into whatever her favourite breakfast cereal is. So maybe if she's having Weetabix or the wheat biscuits, she might have some sliced banana with that, or she might have some berries. Again, just simple ways of having the fruit kind of maybe ready in the fridge. Or vegetables, very often raw vegetables appeal a little bit more to a younger child than the cooked vegetables. So maybe some carrot sticks, or to try it dipped into a little bit of hummus or something like that is a little bit different. Just might be a novel way that maybe Sarah hasn't tried. Maybe she's tried all these ideas.
I know.
Because I know that she, you know, lots of mums with children this age, seems to be a big topic, is the fussy eater.
Yeah. Sometimes if you leave it where they can find it themselves, they don't have to do the, you know, the receiving bit, and they can exert their independence.
Exactly.
So sometimes that can work.
And again, you know, things like serving it in little colourful bowls. Maybe she has a favourite cartoon character at that age, and there's a little bowl that she could have some little, you know, pieces of vegetables chopped up. And again, the raw vegetables might be suitable. Even raw broccoli, you know, if it's cut quite small, or very lightly steamed, that it's kind of more crunchy. And the texture can be a big thing for children at this age as well. So just to try a few little different things, it could be that maybe just the texture of the cooked vegetables is not something that she's willing to try. And again, to praise children for trying something, even if they try it but don't eat it on the first occasion, I think being positive, say, well done, you know, for trying that, and every little bit of positivity is going to encourage them to be a bit more adventurous when it comes to meal times. But don't panic. The other thing I think is that you know, healthy children won't starve themselves. You know, if you really want them to eat the fruit and vegetables, just keep offering it. But once she's eating her meals during the day, and you know, she will come around.
I agree. This is one from Kirsty. She's read that portions for kids over 2 should be carbohydrates the size of their fist, meat the size of their palm, and 2 handfuls of veg. Is that right? So she just again sense checking, has she got the right information? I think the fist is a good one.
It is actually.
Yeah.
I know in safe food you often talk about the tennis ball size, but actually probably it is a similar size, really.
Yeah.
And again, for the younger child, their fist or their palm is going to be smaller than my fist or my palm. So it is a good idea to just, if you're thinking, you know, so how much, say if we look at the chicken breasts again here, and we're talking about, say, a 5-year-old and an adult, you can see that, you know, there is a difference. So if a child's kind of palm of their hand is going to be smaller than the adult's palm, so it is quite a good idea. So I think she's definitely on the right track there.
So some of those things like the palm of the hand, the fist, or the matchbox size piece of cheese, these are really easy ways to remember. I think they're very handy.
They're quite visual, you know. When you kind of think of a matchbox size of cheese, you know, again it might seem like a small amount, but everybody will remember that, you know. So it's kind of a good way if you're measuring it out.
Great.
And again, I think we don't really want people to be hung up on measuring out their foods, but I think it's definitely worth doing once or twice. Just to see, is there somewhere you're going wrong, or maybe you're actually not going wrong at all. Maybe you're doing everything right. Maybe you have, you know, nailed it when it comes to portion size. But I think that we know that a lot of children are overweight. We know that adults are overweight. You know, 60% of Irish men and women are either overweight or obese. So, you know, this is a simple thing we can do, you know, to look at portion size, and then look at the types of foods. Obviously is really important as well. But I think if you get an idea of portion size and you're kind of thinking, okay, well, I am eating a little bit too much. Maybe I'm eating the right kinds of foods, but I'm just overeating. So by, you know, reining that in a little bit, you can make a big difference.
Something that hasn't come up yet, but is an issue, is portion size when you're eating out. So portion size does tend to be bigger, and I noticed that especially for children, they tend to be served quite big portions. So what would you say to parents about that?
Well, you can always ask for smaller portions. Even, you know, I know my children, I'm often, even if we're having a treat out, I'm kind of saying in the restaurant, you know, just slightly smaller, or they don't need so much, or share portions. Exactly, because, you know, again, and you know, eating out might only be an occasion, but now more people are eating out more often. So if it's a very occasional thing, then it's probably not such a problem or a big deal. But if it's something that's happening very regularly, you do need to keep an eye on that. Now, some restaurants now are getting better at their kid size meal. So they're kind of offering a healthy meal within a smaller portion, which is actually great, because we know that a lot of the kids' menus are probably not the healthiest foods anyway, regardless of portion size. I also think as well, if you're buying a treat for children, be aware of portion size.
It can be really the muffins and the cookies and that kind of thing in a cafe if you're there.
Are really big. Really big. You know, again, you know, it's not unusual to see these kind of cookies this size, and studded with chocolate chips or whatever. And you know, really, that's just too big. So again, share that either with yourself or with another child. They mightn't be too happy at first, but you know, I think they're still going to get their treat. It's just a more appropriate size for a young child.
And the general guidance then on treats is small amounts and not every day. Okay, I'm just going to check to see if you've got any new questions coming in. Yes, we have Kieran Williams is asking, I think, the same question we've had before. If they have started with a small portion and they want more, then yes, it's absolutely.
Kieran, definitely. You know, again, this is, I think, as we said, start small and then go up. And then if the child has eaten all their dinner and they want some more, absolutely to give them seconds.
Here's an interesting one from Grania Kelly. Is a bag of crisps from a multi-pack of crisps too much for a 5-year-old? Now the packs in the multi-packs are smaller. They're usually about 25 grams. So as a treat, that would probably be okay.
Also depending on the age of the child, what you can do is, particularly when children are very young, have a few nice small colourful bowls and just divide out a handful of crisps from that pack into the bowls. If they're having, you know, watching screen time, or if they're watching a movie, or if they're sitting down for a treat, you know, they're still getting their treat. The same goes for popcorn, because all of those bags have got bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, so I think that definitely at first, if the child is young enough, put the treat into a small bowl, then you've control over the size of that, even if it comes from a multi-pack or whether it's from a larger bag. Then as children get older, they see the shiny pack, they want to have the treat themselves. So fun sizes really is the way to go as well. You know, that's a child appropriate treat in a smaller size. So I think you're right. The multi-packs, again, they vary, but they tend to be a bit smaller and more appropriate size than some of the larger ones.
This question is from Paul Gosker. We have a 4-year-old and a 12-year-old girl in our house. Is half too much for the little one and not enough for the 12-year-old? Yeah, that's more or less. We have it anchored in a 5-year-old.
Yes.
The 4-year-old would be similar.
Similar,
Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
And
But the 12-year-old is going to need more.
yeah, some 12-year-olds would be almost fully grown.
Yeah, exactly. They might need an adult size. So again, you know, and probably the 12-year-old might want to have their dinner on a bigger plate as well. You know, there's no point in cramming the food in that's kind of spilling off the sides. So, you know, so yeah, certainly if the 12-year-old is having a bigger dinner, that's perfectly appropriate for that size.
And it's not really possible for us to say exactly because children grow, especially at that stage. It's such a variety of rates that it's not possible to say. Let me see, did I miss one? Oh, Joan Maloney, what about vegetable juices for kids? Carrots, for example, mixed with one orange to replace soft drinks. Well, replacing soft drinks is obviously a
really good idea. Yeah, soft drinks are really not necessary at all in a child's diet. They're very much for birthday parties and you know, very occasional treats, because really they don't offer anything in terms of nutrition. So if your child will drink a carrot juice, that's great.
Well, I suppose one thing to note is that juices only count as one of your 5 a day in portions.
So the recommendation is 5 or more, so the juice will be just one. And again, you know, by eating a vegetable or eating the fruit, and by the time the child has chewed it and swallowed it, there's more of a feeling of fullness. That sometimes when you drink it back in a juice, you might not really even notice it, and then you want something else straight away. So, but if they will take it, that's one of their 5 a day.
It's fantastic. If someone is juicing carrots and oranges, that's absolutely fabulous.
Doesn't work in every house, I'm sure. There might be children turning their noses up at the carrot juice, so it's
brilliant. Those are all the questions we've had this evening. That has been an absolutely great session. I'm delighted. I'm just going to try and summarise a couple of tips, and maybe you'll add to them if you think of anything else. To use small plates and cutlery to match your child's size. To think about anchoring the portion size in a 5-year-old, you go up and down from that. When you're eating out, watch the portion sizes. You don't have to clean your plate. Your mammy was not right on that.
And I think that's a really difficult one for people to get over, because I know that lots of people will say they had to, you know, sit there even when the rest of the family had long gone and they were sitting there looking at the plate. But that's not something that, you know, dietitians would recommend anymore, you know. So just one, but obviously if your child says they're full and they haven't eaten their dinner, don't give them a treat 5 minutes later, you know. So if they're not hungry enough to eat their dinner, then they can wait. They're not going to starve, you know. They can leave their dinner, leave the plate there. But if they're looking for something else later on, make sure it's a healthy snack, so some fruit or a yogurt or something like that.
So start small, give them more if they want more, and then you move on to the healthier desserts like fruit and so on.
Exactly.
That's great. Thank you so much, Louise, for coming in this evening, and thanks to everybody who joined us this evening for our Facebook live chat. This is being recorded. It'll be available on our Facebook page if anybody wants to come back and have a look at any of the information again. Have a great night. Bye-bye from the both of us.